Hey you guys, it's Irene Lyon here. Now I am here today to answer a question. I put out a notice to my Facebook community, Healthy Nervous System Revolution. If you are not part of that group, make sure you head over there after this video and ask to be added, and I'll add you and then you can be part of the conversation. So I just said, got any questions for me around the nervous system, health, healing, trauma, resiliency, neuroplasticity, etc. And I got 4 questions and I'm going to answer them in separate videos. So here's one that I want to answer. Shannon asks, how do you set up healthy boundaries with a spouse who does emotional abuse and abandoning behavior? I would like to try to learn to heal in the marriage while setting up a kind but solid boundaries around myself so I can heal. I think I forgot how to do that for myself, as I've always tried to please, to keep the peace, and now I know that that way is hurting me. So here's the thing, Shannon, and all of you guys listening to this. First of all, thank you for asking the question. And secondly, you got to figure out what the actual boundaries are that you are wanting to impose, right? From the sounds of it, there's a lot of emotional abuse going on, neglect. You said there's abandoning behaviors. First of all, that sucks. I'm so sorry that that is happening. And you definitely want to make sure that you get out of that, because that is not something that is conducive to healing. So the first thing that you need to be able to do is to find a way to ask your husband, involve him in this process. And from the sounds of it, it's gone pretty far, and that this has perhaps been a pattern for a long, long time. And the one thing that's interesting about relationships is that because of our nervous system and how it works, it is created based on our relationships. So when we are really, really little, and I'll post a video to go with this to explain a little bit about that importance of bonding, but we learn based on our primary caregivers. If they were solid and there for us and gave us healthy attachments, they set boundaries for us, we will seek out that in our partners. However, if we didn't get that, if our caregivers were not able to give us boundaries, were wishy-washy with their emotions, maybe they didn't allow emotion to be expressed, or maybe the flip side, there was too much heated emotion and nobody knew how to self-regulate, we will become used to that, and we will actually, in a very strange way, seek out what we had when we were young. For many people watching this, that might sound like really bad news, because it's like, oh my goodness, my upbringing was crap, I didn't have good bonding, I didn't have good attachment, it was abusive, or no one was ever there for me. And so we find ourselves in these situations where we get into relationships where it perpetuates this. So the key is to first of all realize this one thing, and that is that we get into relationships so that we can heal. And both parties involved have to be interested, willing, and wanting to do the work to move forward. So if I think about myself, for example, I was married previously. I'm married now, happily. But my previous marriage, bless his heart, we grew apart, and there was definitely a miscommunication, a emotional lack of attunement. Our systems didn't fit. And when things started to kind of go sideways and south, I approached and asked, I'd like to go see a therapist. And his first reaction was, therapy is for those who are weak. And it basically is going to show that I've failed. Now, this person grew up in an environment where he never did anything right. He always was told by his caregivers, his father, you're not good at anything. It always takes you forever to figure things out. So there was a big imprint of failing and never being good enough, and don't show your weaknesses. Culturally, he also had something going on with the way the culture kind of created this stiff British upper lip situation where you didn't show your emotions, right? Emotions were bad. And so me being an emotional being and starting to learn more about my own body and heal my own stuff, I wanted to fix this stuff. I wanted to be in relationship with someone who wanted to work on this. So we tried, we went to therapy, and there was a point where the therapist said to him, do you realize that if you don't start to dive into some of these more uncomfortable things, you're going to lose this girl, Irene. And I don't think it really sunk in. Time went on, and eventually it didn't work. It didn't work. There was not enough meeting. There wasn't enough differentiation within our relationship. Fast forward to now, my ex is doing well. He's with another partner. I have no idea what kind of healing occurred in that relationship, but it's not my problem, right? But in me deciding at that point, okay, I've done everything that I can. We've tried this. It still doesn't feel good to me. I then had to make a conscious decision to say, I can't. I had to put up a boundary, right? So you ask the question, Shannon, boundaries, you know, how do I put up good boundaries, or how do I instill these? You've got to decide what those boundaries are. It might mean that your boundary is that you cannot continue, and to voice that to your partner and see what happens next, right? We cannot force an individual to grow and change. I often say we can show them the door, but they have to walk through it.
I'm trying to free your mind, Nia, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
That's one thing that I want to cover is what kind of boundaries are you looking for? I'm going to go out on a limb to say that it really does sound like having an outside source, whether it's a counselor, a pastor, a support group, something where you both can go and get help. Because when the behaviors are in any way infantile, emotionally immature, it's really tough for the two people involved to figure it out. You need to have somebody else in there guiding the conversation so there isn't more abuse, so there isn't more stonewalling, so there isn't more abandoning and just leaving the situation, which does happen. So that would be my first step. If for some reason your partner does not want to do that, then you have to make the next decision. It's really hard to heal our own personal systems, whether it's from chronic illness, mental illness, or moving forward with a business idea and wanting to be creative. It's really hard to do that when our primary partnership doesn't support it and we don't feel safe. So if there is a safety issue where you are not feeling safe to be yourself, to do what you need to do, to get support from him or her, you need to change that. And of course, it's easy for me to just say that. You're in your own situation, so you need to figure out how to do that, what other forms of support you can bring in from the outside to give you a little bit of foundation so that you can go forward and make some probably tough decisions. But from my experience, and I'm just going to be really truthful, the clients I've worked with who do not have good support in their marriages and their families, they really don't get well. It's really hard to heal when we have a toxic environment and we're doing all the right stuff. It could be a job that you're in. It could be, think about it, if you're living in a house that's infested with mold and toxic chemicals, you can eat all the great food in the world, do all the great mindfulness work, get therapy, but if you come back to that house and there's something that is dangerous and unsafe to your physiology, you're not going to get better. So that would be my suggestion. You really got to look at your environment, how it's treating you, and then make a decision with the partner or without. If the person isn't involved and on board, you have to make a really tough decision. Of course, if there are children involved, you have to see their well-being as well, because those little ones are going to feel the tension between the two caregivers. And if the two caregivers are not in sync and aligned and moving forward in the same way, then they're going to feel it, they're going to act out, they're going to end up having difficulties of their own. So that's my answer to that question. It's not the easiest answer. And these are things that we work on continually. Even though I've got an awesome relationship with my husband, we still every 6 to 8 weeks, we go and see one of our colleagues. He's a friend, practitioner, also studies and works around the somatic healing arts, psychotherapy, because we have stuff that comes up, and we are both committed to having an outside source look at our, we're not perfect, right? Look at our situations and go, okay, well, what would it be like to feel this, or ask him this question this way, etc. So I'm going to leave it at that. In a little bit, I'm going to have an interview out with a woman by the name of Katherine Woodward Thomas. I'm going to interview her on her book called Conscious Uncoupling. She is a psychologist who's written about marriage and also divorce, how to find your soulmate, but also how to uncouple from your soulmate if that situation, if that partnership is no longer working. I think if something needs to occur where people go separate ways, if it can be done consciously, that is awesome, but sometimes that's just not the case. The partner has to be involved. So I wish you all the luck. I wish all of you that are listening to this healthy, happy, and safe relationships. It's super important for our healing. If we're not in a safe environment, I will reiterate this again. If we are not in a safe environment, our nervous system can't come down. It will always be on guard. It will always be hypervigilant. And then that ricochets into our hormonal system, into our organ systems, into our brain systems, and it just taxes the system in general. So healthy, safe, supportive relationships are key. They are so key. All right, so if you are watching this video and you are not either on my website or on my YouTube channel, head over to one of those, subscribe to this channel, or sign up for my email updates. You'll see if you go to my website, I've got lots of freebies that can help you get more into your body, start listening to your own biological impulses, because that's the key. In moving forward in relationship, we have to listen to our own bodies, feel what's good for us, and then figure out what do I need to ask of my partner or put up as a boundary, etc., so that we can move forward together in a healthy relationship. All right, that's it for now. Thank you so much for being here. We will see you next time.